Greetings. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I just got a text that I have to respond to, like literally as I was clicking on the go live button, so I just need to respond to that. Type. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay. Where are we? Oh, I probably need to bring up the chat, don't I? Yes, I do. Say hey, chat. Hi, chat. There we go. Now I've got the chat window open. I see some of you are watching. So feel free to introduce yourselves to each other in the chat if you like, or don't. You can lurk. That's fine. No judgment here. And so, let's see, from yesterday, one of the things I did last night was I rearranged this CSS file because it was getting a little weird in its ordering. Let me take the font size down, actually. So I did it, and this part above here is, this is my under construction banner, which still amuses me. So that'll go away eventually. I should probably put in a comment or something. Do this. There we go. And then I've got the body element, which we'll be changing today, and the sort of basics. And then it starts to get a little more, what's the word I'm looking for, specialized. Down here, below the footer, where I do things like this is stuff that only applies to thoughts from Eric. Okay, so I'm going to make that big again. So it's actually readable. Legible, is that the word I wanted? Okay. So I did that. I actually, a thing I talked about yesterday was things like I had an embedded style sheet in this post so that I could do a little bit of curation, not curation, art direction, where I had this shadow, this filter drop shadow. It's driven by filters. Was in this an embedded style sheet up here, and then this list handling, the way that I did the definition list with grid was also embedded. I moved those. I had moved those into the main style sheet yesterday. This is the drop shadows and stuff for any image that has classes of both book and cover. And where did I put the? Oh, here it is. It's right here. For any definition list, I give a class of compact and separate. Well, compact, it does these things. And if it's both compact and separated, then this border gets drawn in. Anyway, I took out the style element last night, and I added the appropriate classes to this. And also, let me go down a bit here. I have to keep going. This one. Yes, this one also got the styles that do the .book.cover. I think this image had an embedded, or not an embedded style sheet, it had an inline style, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it had like style equals, and then it basically had all of this. So I took that out and I gave this the classes. It's an image standalone book cover. So it's a book cover. Anyway. So I did that kind of stuff. And I rearranged these classes weren't quite the same yesterday. Some of you probably understand what this is, what this indicates, especially this last line, right? But dot standalone, comma, dot standalone img, and img dot standalone, comma, dot standalone img. This is basically saying that I have been sloppy with my use of classes and that I need to deal with that, right? In my style sheet. Eventually I could go back and fix my markup, and I might do that, not during the stream here, but I might do that eventually, where I basically search the database for all instances of the string standalone and then make them all consistent and maybe write myself a style guide. But I haven't done that, and this is the result of that, is me having to say things like images with class of standalone, and also images that are descendants of a thing that has a class of standalone, because sometimes I put images in paragraphs or divs that I class standalone, and I don't class the image, etc. Anyway, that is me paying for my past sloppiness, which happens. Same thing with this. I want, for a long time I did images with a class of pick, meant that they would get floated left, or right, excuse me. As we saw yesterday, this kind of thing, except when it was just an image, I would give it the image directly a class of pick, and then it would float over to the side, and that would be it. But I started captioning images, and so those have figures. Those are figures, but those figures usually don't have classes. Again, I wasn't being particularly consistent or rational in what I was doing, so I have to do this, any figure and any image with a class of pick should go over here, except I want figures that have a class of standalone to not float, so on the dot standalone class I had to say float none, and then blah, 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 blah. All of which is annoying right now, because it inevitably means that there are unusual markup cases that I'm not thinking of because I last looked at them, or I did them 5 or 6 or 10 years ago. But that's what I got to deal with. And what was the other thing I did? Did I add a note class yet? I don't think I did. Why not use Flexbox for what, Phil? That I'm not clear on what you want me to Flexbox. But let me know, and I'll do my best to answer that. I do need a class of note. I don't remember if I did one already. Hang on, find note. No, I didn't. So I'm going to have to do that. So anyway, let me get rid of all those. And my images are still too big, like not the layout size, the actual file size of the images, and their intrinsic resolutions are too large, but that's just a thing I have to deal with. It's not a thing I'm dealing with now. I'm going to have to do that down the road a bit. Because as I discovered as soon as I took the style sheet away, like you can see how long it's taking this image to load in, because this image is like 1200 pixels tall. It's a view image. It's actually, it's 880 by 1136. It just doesn't need to be that big. So, and I did that elsewhere. Like this is a large image file size. These I'm okay with them being, I think their size. I might be able to bring them down a little bit. This is enormous. This is like the original picture that I took at 2048 by 1536, which is just insane, right? So those are things that I need to deal with eventually. And offline, not as part of a stream. Okay. So I don't remember. I already don't remember what I said I was going to do today. So that's a problem with tweeting this stuff. Oh yeah, cleaning up the article headers and their metadata and comments and the navigation's place in the structure. Right. So these guys, like this title and this. So I've been wibbling back and forth about what the headings level should be for various things. Like I think this is an H1 at the moment. Let me see if I changed it back yet. Nope, it's still an H1. This used to be an H1, the MyerWeb.com. Now it's not a heading at all. I've got H2s and H3s and H5s, and I'm not going to go through all my complaints about heading levels again. But I have changed my mind a bit. And I'm going to take the article headers back to H2s, like consistently throughout the entire site. And I know that I've been going back and forth on this, but I'm pretty sure this is where I'm ending up. Is on. Oh right, I put that. I broke that out into its own function. Here it is. So this will be an H2 now, and there's the /H2, and that should. Oh, it probably won't change those on the homepage for reasons that are too long and involved to get into. Let me just check. Oh, no, it should have. Hang on. Maybe it did, and I'm just not. Yeah, it did. See? That's why you don't go by the way things look. Anyway. So these are H2s now. So I can make this an H1 or not, as I might choose. At the moment, this page doesn't have an H1, so I probably should make it an H1. But I'm going to leave that aside for the moment. And then, let me see, skip down to navigation. So like this, let's see what this is. Yeah, see, this is also an H2. So this can go back to being an H1. And it should be fine. There's going to be one particular class of pages where it's going to get weird, but I've got a way around it, so it's not a huge deal. In fact, I'm just going to fix that now. The MyerWeb.com at the top is going to go back to being an H1. Here it is. There's not a lot to see here, really. I mean, this is I just took out the heading level altogether, and now I'm bringing it back. Oops. And I'm taking out this span. So this span is an artifact of a style that I did a long time ago. I think when I first put the site up, or put this design up in 2005, not 2015, 2005, where the .com was, like MyerWeb was, let's say, in blue, and then .com was in a faded blue. So it was, MyerWeb.com was the visual thing. But I don't do that anymore. So I'm just going to go back to this, and if I at the end of this decide that I need to do that again, then I can come back in here and change that markup. Right. So H1, H2. Then these should be H3s. I wonder if they are. Oh, good. They are. This is probably an H4, but it's going away, so it doesn't really matter. Oh, that's an H1, that thing? Oops. This thing right here apparently is an H1. I did that thing so long. Okay, yeah, so this is an H4. Anyway, this is really an H1? H1, H2. is how that's structured. I literally built this like in 2002. And I should have known better even then that shouldn't be an H1 and an H2, but that's what I did, and I'm going to have to deal with that at another time. In fact, I'm going to make a note of that. CSS banner on CSS page headers. Okay. Actually, that needs to be one of these. Yes, I actually have my own bullet patterns for this thing. Okay. For that image where you were talking about with the list. Nope, I'm still lost. Image with the list. Nope, you lost me, coach. I am sorry. This is what happens with me. If it goes past again, hopefully you're not talking about this thing. But let me know. Okay. Oh, and I added a class. Right. So when I added img.pick float right max width 33%, that made this float because all of this is one of those bare images that has a class of pick, short for picture. This was picked up by the img.standalone, standalone.img. I don't remember which one it is at the moment, so let's find out. Yeah, it's just an image with a class of standalone. It doesn't even have a parent paragraph, which is probably not great. Okay, so here's a note. Yay, I knew there was a note around here somewhere. So this element right here, that paragraph, it has a class of note. And I need to deal with that because I do occasionally do notes, like little footnote. They're not footnotes exactly. They're literally notes. And so I feel like pretty much any paragraph that has a class of note is going to need to be p.note font style italic. Right, so it's at least going to need that much. And then anytime I use that in an actual blog post or other article, I'm going to want some kind of top margin. Not just in this case, but these are things that I'll put at the bottom of, I'll put at the bottom of a post saying, thanks to Joe, Jane, and Alice for taking a look at this article before publication. It's I'm pretty sure invariably, but I'm going to go with almost invariably or probably invariably, just a thing at the bottom. Almost like an epilogue to a post, except they're not usually as long as epilogues. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so this right here. These need to be better. And I'm gonna steal a thing that I did. I'm gonna steal this gridded headings idea that I wrote about. I can actually say now 7 months, 1 week ago. God, I love that thing. So I'm thinking, this heading and this heading is basically this and this. And I'm gonna use them in a slightly different way. I'm going to right align the subheads so that this will happen in cases where this is longer than this, which it probably won't be by the time I get done resizing this. And when the heading is longer than the date, they'll right align. And I might end up putting a little bit of a right margin on this, or right padding. But that's what I'm going to do in the posts, which is, so I'm in here. So thoughts H2 and thoughts. Actually, that should be header H2 just in case, because these. And actually, I should take that even further. Thoughts dot entry. I'm just firing up that specificity. because I'm also display grid. And I'm basically going to do something that I tried to do yesterday for figures, and it didn't work because of the way that images are handled when they don't have. There we go. Yeah, I use tabs, by the way, deal with it. Okay, so that's all going to go there. And then I need to assign these both. I just need to star grid column 2. And actually, I'm going to have to deal with structure in a second here, because I think this is like a strong element or something, and that just needs to change. Yeah, there's an H2 followed by a strong. On the other hand, I don't want it to be an H3. Do I want it to be a paragraph? I mean, it doesn't matter because these are now, or they're about to be, grid items. Right, see now they're both grid items. I can turn that on. All right, so grid item. The strong just becomes a grid item. You know, if I put this strong in a paragraph, then the paragraph would become a grid item. And then it would have a strong inside of it. So I feel like adding a paragraph actually is wasting a bit of structure. So I could do this. Text align right, and then the H2 I'm gonna 300%, I guess. Right, so that's I have to do something about the margin, but this is what I'm after, basically. Whereas if I took it down to 1em, then because of the way this works out, this ends up wider than this. Okay, but I'm gonna 300% might be too much, but margin bottom 0, and then that becomes that. And I could add a bottom margin to this strong element to push the grid row, this grid row track higher. But I'm just going to put the bottom margin on the header because I don't think I want. I'll do that. And that will push the content away a bit. That might be a little too much, but I'll live with it for now. Right, so if I go back to the home page, right, here's a Newwwyear live stream published 2 days ago. Published 5 days ago. Right, so this is the one place where it looks a little off, but I'm okay with this, where this wraps to 2 lines and this ends up being right aligned. But it works for me because this is sort of secondary information in a way, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, again, published 1 month ago, and that's not going to stay looking like a strong. I'm actually going to. Yeah, see, and we end up with declining complexity in CSS, published 1 month, 1 week ago. I like this separation. This is working for me. I've been doing a lot of long titles, haven't I? Although part of that has to do with the constraint on this. Does this go to page? Yes, it does. It goes to page 2. Let's see if that works. Yes, it does. Okay, so let's get past that. Here's one, half-life, where this is shorter than this. But that works. And then here we are back to page 2. It's already 7 months, 6 days ago. I don't blog much these days, do I? Okay. Yeah, I dig it. Yeah, so here's the interesting thing. This is a strong element. And I'm going to leave it like that, even though I'm going to make it look, well, do I make it an M instead, or do I just make it a span? But see, I want it, if somebody's reading through this, I do want some sort of emphasis on this. if the page is being read, right? I want it to have I want it to be called out a little bit more than everything else. So strong might be a bit much. I think I do need to change that to M. And, you know, clearly I'm splitting the smallest of semantic hairs here, or almost the smallest of semantic hairs, but, and I don't know what this class equals published is doing here, unless I was going to hook onto that class, but I don't really need it. Or do I? No, because I'm never going to put markup in a title. WordPress won't let me anyway. And yes, I know there are probably ways to get around that, but no, you know what? I'm going to change that, but I'm going to pub time. Woo! Pub time. That doesn't mean what it means in the UK. Sorry, folks. But that's the time since publication, and I don't want to write out a class that says time since publication. But just in case I ever do start having markup come into the actual titles, I don't want this to be a generic element. So instead of strong, this is just going to be pub time. In which case, and it's an M now, right? Right. So that's saved. That's saved. And then that should change this just a beat. Yeah, I want it a little bit bigger than that, even visually. So I'm going to go with font size. I don't want it huge. Woo, size. Oh, 133%. Let's see what that turns out like. And I'm actually going to go back to the home page and see what it looks like there. That's too much. 115%. That's better. I can live with that. I might bring it. Well, okay. So I definitely need to deal with the H2s here. Let me scroll this. Actually, let me move this up. So that's probably at the very bottom of the stream there. Okay. So I got a font size of 3, which might be, the more I look at it, the more I think I slightly overdone it there. Put that on its own line. Anyone who's joining since our earlier streams, I said this earlier, but I'll just reiterate. There's really no rhyme or reason to the way that I format my CSS. It's whatever seems to make sense to me at the time. So sorry if that's going to be a problem. 1. Well, let's just go with 1 and see what happens. You know, once I take away the text decoration, that's probably not so bad, because I'm going to do that. None. Oops. I have to do that on the A, not on the H2. But what I am going to do is on hover before, we're going to do content, and I'm going to go have to look up this. Oh, actually, wait, I know where I can find it. No, I'm going to look it up. Unicode, paragraph mark. Pilcrow sign. I see. I never remember that that's what it's called. All right. Browser test page. This is a thing that I've done, I think, since it came out. Okay, so this, right. So I'll deal with that in a second, but this is what happens when you hover over it, and it'll be out here once I finally get that done, instead of this boink, 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 boink. Nope, that's not happening. Display inline block width 1M. Let's see if that's Okay, so that's too much, but oh, I could try 1CH and see if that's see how the Pilcrow here compares to the. That's not too bad. Okay. And I'm actually going to make it. No, I'm going to make it header hover. So when you hover over this, it will pop that, but also h2 text indent -1ch to match up with the 1ch width of that Pilcrow, and then that should, that's further than I thought it would be. That's all right. Oh, shoot, duh. Because this is, let's see what happens if I do that. Because this is a different, I think because this is a different font size. Nope, that's not right. All right, well, I'll get there. It's, at the moment, it's basically what I want. Oops. Not precisely. Actually, I'm curious. Line 1px dotted. That's good enough. Okay. Yeah, wow. 1ch is actually quite a bit larger than, or not, well, it's quite a bit larger than that Pilcrow. So a 0 in this particular font is large. Huh. That's interesting. Okay, well, I'll worry about that at some other time. Cool, so that's actually what I got there is working for me. And then the same thing will happen here. I haven't touched the colors really at all except for this background color. I'm not, now that I think about it, I don't think I'm even setting a foreground color for the body. Am I? No, I'm not. Color. I could go not quite so black and see what that looks like. No. I mean, this will be a subtle difference between black and normal, but what the heck. Or maybe at some point I'll HSLA it, but it'll be some version of 0, some version of like 0 saturation, so that it's just shades of black. So it doesn't really matter that much. I feel like I'm going to have to do something about this. This is bugging me a bit. See, I like this. I dig this, which is why I kept it from the previous. And I need to do something about pre-elements. Almost, probably every pre-element except maybe for pre-elements I used 17 years ago or something are going to be they're going to be markup or CSS or something. I'm not going to do syntax coloration. I know that there are small little JavaScript libraries that can make that happen, but I don't want to add that. I've been stripping away stuff, as a matter of fact. I already uninstalled Jetpack, just because I never use it for anything, and it was jamming a bunch of stuff into the tops of all of my blog pages, and it was bugging me. So, oh, that's funny. This isn't actually a note. That's right. I remember looking at this element yesterday. Yeah, so I need to deal with this because this doesn't look right. But that's easy enough to do in a minute. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. So I've got an ordered list and a different ordered list, and now I have the unordered list. Yeah, this is not working. These lists need to be indented a bit more than I'm indenting the paragraphs. At least that needs to be the case for posts, stuff in the Thoughts from Eric, which is technically the name of the blog is Thoughts from Eric. That's what I set it as when I set up WordPress all those years ago. And it feels like it's too late to change it now. So but I can do that here. 4M might be a bit much, but let's see how it looks. I'm gonna stick with that, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I think that works. I mean, it's pushed over the metadata, but I don't have to worry about that yet anyway. Oh, and here are my my fig captions. Oh, that's right. I think I added that last night. I might have ended it at the end of the stream yesterday, where the captions are smaller. That might be a little too small, actually. I think that is too small. Fig caption. Where's my fig caption? I'm going to bring that up a bit and see how it turns out. Now, maybe I should leave it at 100%. Huh. I have either the Mario theme in my head or the Muppet Show theme, and I don't know which it is. So I keep going da 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 da. That's like a fragment of the Muppet Show theme, but it's also the Mario theme. Which is funny because I was never really a Mario player. I've never really played Mario. That became popular after I was already on like C64. And that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Muppets. You're right, Jesse. Of course you're right. But it really all depends on what the next note is, right? Like, da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, what's after that? That's what determines whether it's the Muppets or Mario. Anyway. Okay. So, this stuff. It's time to deal with this. Oops. Wrong thing. Damn it. Stop. There we go. It's time to do this markup. It's time to style right. It's time to get things started on. Okay. The Muppets were big on TV when I was a kid because I'm old. Okay. So I've got an unordered list with a class of meta. And then there's a date and there's a date line, li.date, li.cat for categories, and then li.cmt for comments on the Meyer web tonight. There we go. What have I done? Okay. So I'm pretty sure this meta only shows up in posts. And if I have a UL with a class of meta somewhere else, I probably don't want to be styling it the same way. So we're going to go with the whole thoughts.entry .meta. That should probably be ul.meta. Margin 0, padding 0, just to start things off right. I'm just going to keep pushing that, aren't I? I can turn off the list styling. List style none. Are we allowed to use IDs now? I never stopped. Don't call it a comeback. I've been IDing for years. I'm just not using IDs here for things like the meta because, like on the home page or an archive page, there will be multiples of these. But for the site mast, the masthead of the site, which I'm probably going to rename the ID of that to masthead, or site masthead, it's totally ID'd. I use IDs where it's unique and classes where it's not. I think I want these centered. And I don't think I'm going to be fancy about it. I'm literally just going to text align center. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to push them down. I'm probably going to italicize them. I don't know that I'm going to do a whole lot more than that for these. Although, maybe if I had another separator above them, well, let's see how they look first. Font style, italic. And this is going to change. Actually, let me... So, to the extent that I organize my styles in a given declaration block, they're usually things like the box model stuff goes together, the font and text stuff goes together, color and background go together, but they're never in a consistent order, so, you know, whatever. 3M00 for the margin on this thing. Let's see what that looks like. I think I'm going to do the same thing I did with the publication time, this thing here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Will that work? Oh, fun. God, I did it again. Everything should be font style, right? Font size, font weight, I don't care. Font style. I'm styling the font. It's font style. Okay. Yes, I know. Yeah, I got it. Oh! It's all font styling. Where's my actual entry styling? Did I put it somewhere else? I probably did. Oh no, it's here. It just needs to be smaller, I think. I was going to make this bigger, but I think this needs to be smaller. Okay, maybe they both need to be bigger. Oh, I know why this is out of balance, because I didn't do anything about the top margin on the H2s, did I? I did not. Margin 0. You get no margin for you. You get no margin. Yeah, that'll have to be blown out, but that's okay. Okay, so this is potentially an issue, but I don't have to worry about it at the moment. And then there's a separation. Yeah, I might want to remove that, like change that a little bit, but yeah, this is roughly working for me. This shouldn't be all the way down here though. This should be up. So let me take that to 3 and take this to 5. See how that feels. Right, I'm just moving stuff around. I should probably be doing this in the Firefox Inspector rather than over here and round tripping it, but I don't care. Yeah, that's better. That makes it more obvious that this is with this. It might have been a mistake to make this bigger. I just feel like it should be ever so slightly larger. But I may be wrong about that. Yeah, I'll leave it for now. And maybe centering is also an error. Maybe I should have it over here. Or heck, over here. But yeah, 3 weeks, 4 days ago. Published a month ago. Yeah. Notice what happens to emoji when they're italicized. My emoji is italicized. That's pretty funny. Italomoji. Right there. Oh, I'm amused. Okay. Yep. Italomoji indeed. That your thing there actually just showed up, Jesse. I think there's about a 5 to 10 second delay between when I say something and when you guys see it, and then when you chat and it comes back. But looking at all this, yeah. As my friend Dave and I used to say, blank minds think alike. He may have gotten that from somewhere, I don't know, but yeah, so I styled keyboard the other day, but I didn't do anything about, well, I colored keyboard elements yesterday, but I didn't do any coloration of or other call out of code and pre. And I think I've been thinking kind of a brick red for these guys. So if we go back up here to where I'm doing keyboard, I'm thinking something similar to this for both code and pre. Except, I don't know, maybe 800. And I'm not going to do the border on it. I'm going to see how that turns out. Actually, you know why I like that? Because my ASCII doc preview in Atom, the editor, I think that's really similar to the color that's used for code blocks. I think that's actually really similar. Okay. And I wonder what happens here. What if I do? I think I know what happens. This shouldn't affect the code elements, the top and bottom margin, but it should affect, yeah, because inline margins don't really have any impact on line height, but block margins do push away. I actually don't need the bottom. If I'm not going to do, so I have this bottom padding because of the bottom border on keyboards, but if I'm not going to do that bottom border here, I don't really need that. And then I can just, with pre's, I could actually do padding, and I'm going to take this back to 1em because I'm going to pad this, or 1.5em because I'm going to pad this up a bit. I'm going to pad that at 1em. And I'm just going to briefly give it a background color. Oh, all right, HSLA. I can hear people already frowning at me using the 50%, comma 50%, comma 0. I don't know, 2. I'm just making stuff up here. I want to see what that looks like for the... Okay, that's too much, but I think having my pre's set apart visually like that is a good call. Not that much, but just having them be visually distinct and boxed in, I think is a good idea. So let me just take this down to 0.1 and see what that looks like. Heck, I might just stick with that. Now, if I had been decorating these with classes all the way through, I could actually do like a, pre-class equals CSS, and then I could do a little CSS over here. And for that matter, if I ever decided I wanted to do syntax coloration, that would make that a lot easier. But I'm going to build that in anyway, because I might start pre.css before, and this is where it's going to get fun. I did something like this for the CSS definitive guide figures. Let's see. Right, so the idea here is that there are actually several of these, all of I think it's 12-20 through 12-25. Estelle Whale, who was my co-author, actually did this chapter in these figures. And the way it's set up is that you can do this, because this is literally the CSS file. I'll show that in a moment, but you can change which one is commented out, and then it'll show you what the difference is. But anyway, this is actually generated content. Right, so let me show the source. This might be new to some of you. So style, content editable, ID equals enemy. Like, this is the style element in the head element, is this right here. I'm literally editing, okay, so that's content editable, and then with an ID equals edit me, there are styles that get applied to that style element to make it appear with CSS. But this editable CSS part is literally before generated content right here. Like, this is this whole thing, content editable CSS, display block, 1ch, blah, 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 blah. And I think I'm just going to basically copy that approach here, at least to start. So, oops, too many lines. Copy, paste. And instead of editable CSS, I'm just going to say CSS. I had 1M, 1M, 1M. RGBA, I'm just going to go 000 for the moment. 0.15. Color, apparently I used the color of the devil. Border bottoms, that's what this is for. I probably don't need that much. It's bold, it's sans serif, it's centered. Cool, I'm going to run with it. Save. And then I'm going to reload. It's not going to do anything because I don't have this class in place, but inspect this element. It's about to. Yes, here we go. Class equals CSS. And that should have. I added. Whoops. Added it to the wrong style block. Oh. Okay. That's all right. We'll just do that again. Reload. Attributes, add attribute, class equals CSS. Okay, so clearly I overdid that a bit, but Like I could do this, or I could put it as a little box here, or I could put it. Ooh, I could put it as a box on the side. Guess what I'm about to do? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do two things. One of them is going to happen off stage. So that I don't have to keep editing this, I'm going to, through Firefox, I'm going to, well, that's HTML. Well, I'm going to do it here. I'm going to do HTML and CSS here. So in an off-screen window, because I'm not showing you all the login to my WordPress install, I'm going to go, oh, sorry. First, I'm going to mark something as spam, because that's spam. Thank you very much. Generating wireframe boxes with CSS and HTML5. Okay, so this is the part where, here we go. This is a pre with a class of HTML, and this is a pre with a class of CSS. Update. Yes, I'm sure I want to publish this, because I've got that little warning going for me. And then these should, yep. Okay, so that one's got CSS. I don't have one for HTML yet. And I'll be making this generic in a moment, but I don't have to do that. I'm not going to need this, probably. I can actually get rid of the color 2 for the moment. That can go. This can go. This can go. Let's make this generic. Any pre that has a class, the content will be attr class text transform uppercase. Display block font family sans serif. Let's see what that gives us. HTML, CSS. Right. So I am going to have to set a color eventually. But those are being inserted as content. What's funny is if at any point in the dim archives of MeyerWeb I published a poem in pre-formatted text, then it will have poem. And I kind of dig that. Okay. So I'm actually going to do something sort of more simple. Let me close that up. Pre-class position relative. And then the before is going to get itself positioned absolute. Top minus, I'm just going to say 1em to start, well, 1.2em to start with. Left 0. And that should do that. It might be a little too far, but that's okay. And because it's I don't have to say display block, because when you absolutely position something, it generates a block box at that point. Border 1px solid background. What did I use here? Where's my background? There it is. 0.7. And then color this, I guess. Or no, not that. My background color. Then this is where this is where custom properties would come in super handy. And I may end up doing that before I'm done. But let's just see what that looks like. It needs more padding. Could probably stand to be bold-faced after all, if I'm going to do this. And I'm not saying that I am at the moment. Adding 0.1 m, 0.5 m. And let's see how that looks. Yeah, it needs more. 2 and 0.1 m. This is a thing that I've discovered when I box stuff like this, because of the under baseline, the descender space. I knew I'd think of it eventually. I end up having to put more padding on top of stuff than I do on the bottom. So I'm usually doing stuff like, padding 0.25 m, 0.5 m, a quarter m on the top and a tenth of an m on the bottom. That's not bad. I don't know if I'm going to keep it, to be honest, to be clear, but it's not bad. I need a different margin top here. 2.5 m, let's say 0.5 em. That's not terrible. I think I'm going to leave it for now. Because the other thing that I've considered, but here I can see why that's a problem, is actually having it be sideways here. But if I have one line, is that going to be, it might not be too long. The other problem is that writing mode values don't do this by default. They go the other way. I'm going to try it anyway. Okay, so I'm going to comment this part out and start over. In this case, I'm not going to do this at all. Well, I'm not going to do this at all. What I'm going to do, just for prototyping purposes, display grid, grid column, or template columns. Grid template columns, min content, comma 1 fr. And that should really be all that I need. This is not going to be absolutely positioned anymore. I'm going to take away the padding for a bit. It's going to keep this. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to leave that the same. That'll be the same. That'll be the same. So this will be writing mode vertical. And this isn't going to look right at first. Vertical LR. Whether I use RL or LR actually doesn't matter here. But that, oh right. I forgot to assign it to a grid column. Column 1. All right, so it's the wrong, okay, now what have I done? Inspect element, show me the grid, wait, what? Did I not grid? Pre-class display grid, grid template columns. Oh, I put in a comma. Whoops. There we go. Okay. No commas in here. I forgot about that part. Okay, so right, so what I would actually want to do is like take off the padding and put a little bit of margin. So this would mean that my pre with a class would have padding 0, 1m, 0, 0. because the pre is a grid container, so it's doing padding all the way around. I mean, it could put negative margins on this one, but I don't really want to do that. So if I take away the padding for a moment, and then I just do this, I would want it to go the text to go the other way, but I can't deal with that at the moment. And then give this a margin, and it's a right margin, strangely enough. That pushes that over. And this is center aligned. I believe by default. I'm not sure why this is so much taller. Layout, close that, open that. Where's the before? Yeah, it's 64 tall. Oh, right. Oh, I'm totally getting away with that, aren't I? Yeah, because remember up here when I said, oh, I can just slap top and bottom margins on code elements. It's not that big a deal. The top and bottom margins on an inline element don't affect the height of the inline. But here, this code element has become a grid item, and it has top and bottom margins of 1.5 m. So it's not being centered alignment-wise. I mean, it is being centered. That's the visual effect. But that's happening because of those margins. So I could take this down to 1 m if I so chose, and then this should get shorter. And it did. Yeah, so now I have to deal with this. And this is one of the interesting things. I actually wrote about this in the definitive guide, but even though this is being written vertically, like it's been turned sideways by, the standards of English, this is still the right margin, this 1 m margin in here. This is still, see that yellow? That's the right margin. Because top right, bottom left don't rotate when you write the text in a different way, which is what I'm doing. I'm writing the text in a different way. So I can also do padding, but if I do that, I have to keep my padding like top right, bottom left. Unless I decide to try to use the stuff that's coming along now that's being discussed, things like padding block start, I think, or maybe it's block start padding is the property name. It's still being discussed. So there's like inline start, block end, inline end, that kind of stuff. So the idea would be that you can say, I could say here, I think it would be inline start, or maybe it's cross-axis start, whatever. I could say I want the margin above the text, above the text with respect to that text to be, let's say 1 m. So that if I ever decide to take this out and put it up here as a normal block, then that margin moves over to what would then be the top of that box, rather than me having to say, okay, if I'm not going to do this now, I have to this is no longer margin right 1 m now, it has to be margin top 1 m, but we're not there yet. But I want to pad this out slightly. And this is going to get even weirder in a moment, but padding, I'm just going to go with half a ch. And that should, yeah, it's a little much, but I'm just going to leave it. And now you can see this text is biasing a bit towards the top on this one because the HTML is long enough that it's pushing the pre to be this height, and there's that 1 m margin on the code element. And then here, because CSS is short enough, right? So I should actually add the CSS to a couple of these guys. So let me do that. If I still have that up, I do. Class equals CSS. Let me find some more pre's. Here's a pre, here's a pre. I'm going to update. Okay. That is updated. And so when I reload this, There should be some pre's somewhere around here. Oop, there they are. There they are. Yeah, CSS. Visually, it's a little heavy. Like it could stand to be less in your face. But I kind of like it. I'm kind of digging this. Yeah, so what I really want to do with this is I want to use sideways LR, but don't like make a huge note of this. What that will do, right? So now it's down here, and then I could right align it. I could literally say text align right. The problem here is that this is sideways LR. The last I checked, excuse me, is Firefox only. All right, so I could do it that way, which I prefer, but I'm pretty sure Chrome doesn't do that. Let's find out, unless they added it recently. And even if Chrome does do it, Edge isn't going to do it, which wouldn't be an enormous like sticking point necessarily. Oh, Chrome's just not even going to do this at all. I wonder if it got mad about writing mode sideways LR, like mad enough to not do this. Either that or it's pulling from the cache. I better take a look at this. Why is this not working? There's a before. And it's there. Oh, Grid column? Ooh. Right, so writing mode sideways LR, it doesn't understand. It also doesn't understand HSL. Oh, Firefox was saving my bacon. I wrote HSL and then I HSL'd. And that's not right. Chrome was correct here. Firefox was trying to be smarter, and it tripped me up because I was being dumber. Oops. Okay, so we've got that much going. Oops, wrong before. Inspect. Oh, right, I'm looking at the wrong thing, I think. There we go. Yeah, so it doesn't understand sideways LR. So it does that, which is not tragic. I mean, it's not the worst, but I also don't like it. So I'm going back to where we were before. Oops, before vertical LR. I probably want to get rid of text align right, but let's see what happens. Yep, it's gonna bottom align those, which I don't want to do. Did I misspell the? Yeah, I got it wrong up here. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Actually, so if I text align right this is where this is. Okay. Transform. Rotate 180 degrees. Oops, misspelled rotate. Let's get that up there, and then boink, badoink. Yep. So that will give me the sideways LR that Firefox would give me, but it'll do it in a more cross-browser fashion. And this actually ought to work in Edge, I would think. Someone who's on Edge can tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. But and again, like I say, this is too much. I need to lighten it up. In fact, I probably need to do this, and I can take this away for the moment. Do something more like that. I think that's probably better. And then the color I could literally take back to the regular text color, probably. Yeah, the placement of the bits is not necessarily to my liking, like the padding here, but that's easily fixable. I could do that, for example, and bring that. Oops. Oh, right. and this is where this gets me. Right? I just took away the right padding, but because this entire thing is rotated 180 degrees, that became the left padding. Right, yes. Because this whole thing is rotated 180 degrees, yeah, it needs to be more like that. That's probably not enough. Yeah, something like that. And I could center this. That's kind of the beautiful thing. Rather than text align right, I could just say text align center. Because I'm writing this, it's being written sideways. So, right, like I could do that rather than having it up at the top. Which I think I might just leave it as. Because then that'll center here. I think I might just leave it that way. Yeah, and what's fun about this is that this will only happen if I have classes, and then for like all the other pre's that I've ever done that don't have these classes, they'll just get the box and they won't have this thing. And I'm okay with that. And this actually turns out to be almost exactly this. I could actually make it that if I felt like it. I don't think I'm gonna do that right now. I do need to, this is a bit much. Is that, no, that's the before. Geez, I'm already down to 0.1 on this box. I think that's too little. I know what I'm gonna do. Because why not? Oh, no, linear gradient. To right, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go 0.05. And that's gonna make it do, oops. Yep, I forgot my closing parenthesis, which I do a lot. And that'll make it fade out a bit. And I could actually move that back by saying 33% to set the midpoint of here to here, more like here. So that will fade it like that. Yeah, I'm going to leave that for now, the way that is. I think I'm good with it. And then all that really remains for me to do is to fill that in, fill those classes in for the rest of that post. And then they will all have the same. Yeah, that's too dark, but I can fix that. 0.05. Let's see what that looks like. That's probably too light, but yeah, it is. But that's, I mean, right, that's the fun part with RGBA, is that you could just fiddle with this stuff. And I could take this and I could inspect the element to make it easier. And where's my color for the, oh, I'm not looking at the before. I could go click and I could, ooh, there we go. Yeah. I could do that kind of thing. And actually, what I'm going to do, apparently there's drama happening behind me, but that's okay. I think it's affectionate drama. If I boldface those and fade them back, maybe even make them, okay, not that. A little bit reddish. No, now it's just looking weird and I don't know why. I wonder if the S's are just throwing me off. Suddenly it looks like I've got Now it looks like I've got, you know, none of you are going to know what this is. The little things you put in 45 RPM records on a 33 turntable. Yeah, you have no idea. That's 45 RPM plastic. Let's see if I get this right. Yeah, these things. This is what it's making me think of for some reason, those two S's. Wow, you can buy these at Target? That's amazing. Anyway, these remind me of these, and I don't know why. It might just be the font. But, animate the RGB opacity. You know what? I thought about it. I thought about when you hover over this pre that this like fades up to darker, and then it goes, yeah. Don't test me. Get thee behind me, Santa. Anyway, yeah, okay. So, I'm digging that. And I probably should style TT elements while I'm in here. Jesse just got a record player for Christmas. That's cool. Is it one of the USB record players where you can like rip stuff to your computer? Because I got one of those I think last year, and I haven't unboxed it yet. Which I really should, because in the attic I have. Remember well, those of you who are old enough may remember the Star Wars story albums on vinyl, where it was like literally audio clips from the movies and the narrator, right? The what I remember as something, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, you know, you've taken your first step into a larger world, and then the narrator says something like, "But on the Death Star, Princess Leia has taken another step towards death," or something like that. I have those upstairs. I could totally rip those to my computer and then get sued by Lucasfilm. So maybe I won't do that after all. Regardless, Bluetooth Victrola. Oh, now I am jealous. I did not get a Victrola. That's the coolest. And it goes to 78, I take it? If it goes to 78, respect. I'm going to go Bungie style on the... So keyboards and teletype text get the same basic styling, except teletype will get the 777 color instead of the 080. And pre-encode will stick with 800. That actually might be I'm just going to leave it. I don't know where I know I have teletype elements back in the archives because I used to do that instead of using things like KBD because I was young and naive. So it's back there somewhere, and I'll track it down at some other point. But yeah, I'm digging this. I actually am. Responsive mode. And zoom up. This site is under construction. Doesn't this? Oh, here we go. Let me select a device, an iPhone SE. All right, so this is what it's going to look like on my phone, because that's what I have. I might need to bring this down on this indentation down on mobile. But I wonder what an iPhone they have. Here's a 6 Plus. That's not. Oh, block quotes. I haven't done block quotes. Andrew, yes, I will speak to that. Just give me a second here. I gotta deal with block quotes because that's not. These are block quotes and they need to look like it. But yeah, I think this needs to come down a scoosh. I wonder if I could pull it off with calc. I can make it bigger. Can I make it smaller in a way that makes sense? Because it's easy to do something like 2m plus 1 VW. But I actually don't want to do that. I want to do 2m, but I don't want to do 2m minus 1 VW. I actually want to do 2m minus 100 minus 1 V. No. I'll figure this out. There's a way to do this. Yeah, I know the header orphans are sad. And that's another thing, is that this is still on mobile, quote unquote, on smaller, like this is still huge. Like these probably need to come down a bit. And this might also be this might be a calc. This might easily be a calc. So I might do the calc like 1.5m plus 1 VW or 1 Vmax. Vmin? One of the two. Yeah, I think that's what I need to do, is that sort of calcing. Okay, so Andrew wanted to know about KBD pre-TT. So pre is a presentational element. It means pre-formatted text. Code for me is for code, and in that I include, let me get out of mode. In that I include things like HTML and CSS. I'm not having the, what is CSS a programming language argument here. If the rest of you want to discuss it in chat, be respectful. That's all I ask. I'm not going to get into that. To me, this is code. So this is a because I want to pre-format it. I want it to preserve things like, the space indentation or tab indentation, depending on what I'm doing with the code. And I'm not having that argument in the chat either, by the way. So I know that I want that, and then it's all wrapped in code because this is a code. This is a block of code. This is code to me. Okay. This is code because it's all, snippets of this. So over here, Firefox's screenshot command, this is all KBD because this is stuff that you're supposed to literally type in at your keyboard but it's not code per se. Hold on just a second. I had a scheduling question come in there. Okay, so right, this is like I'm typing this in at the command line. In this case, the Firefox command line. But if I were writing about Unix, if I were writing about grep, let's say, that would all be in KBD. TT is technically it's teletype text. Like a long time ago, I just did everything. I sort of thought, well, it's pre in a block and it's teletype in an inline, and that was wrong. I shouldn't. That was dumb. Or perhaps unthinking. It wasn't dumb so much as unthinking. So that to me is the distinction. And I completely get that this is also stuff that you would type in with the keyboard. Like I understand that, but it's code, whereas the other is not. That's basically the distinction I draw. And like I say, this TT is mostly to catch like the stuff I was blogging in 2005, where I had snippets of code and I was just throwing in teletype because I was just throwing in teletype. I shouldn't have been, but it was. Okay, so that actually reminded me, though. I'm going to bring this now. No, let me go back to that one. That's actually a good one. I haven't dealt with the comments at all while I've been dealing with this. This is a what? Is it an H3? Hello, what are you? H3, which is good, actually. I could make it an H2 to mirror the title. I could. But right now I'm not going to. Yeah, and then there's the XMP element. Which, it's obsolete, could be removed, but it renders text between start and end tags without interpreting HTML. So you can it's an HTML example element. It's an HTML example element that's meant for HTML examples, so that you could do this kind of thing and not have to encode the stuff, the angle brackets. I don't think I've ever used it except in like experimentation circumstances. Okay. Oh, hey, look, Jesse Gardner wrote in to say something on this post. Hi, Jesse. Also Trace Meek, Jason, etc. But this one's good because it has trackbacks. Yeah, I know about the Pilcrow shifting. Like that happens because this is a certain width, and I haven't quite tuned it. I do need to deal with that. It might just be the outline, but I don't think it is. That is a thing I will deal with. On the other hand, I might not do this. I might put the Pilcrow at the end when you hover, and then it'll just be inline. But we'll see. The other thing I really need to do is I need to like either center or right align the Pilcrow, because I noticed in mobile the Pilcrow is basically hanging off the page. So yeah, long time lurker. What are you talking about? You were commenting anyway. I do need to deal with this, and this is going to have to be dealt with as well. I want this to be a go sort of in a line. Let's deal with this. I'm pretty sure that this is, yes, previous next. So class equals prev next, and that's what that is. And I think that only shows up in thoughts, but I can see where it would be useful to have in other circumstances. Oops, prev next. So anytime I have a UL, anytime I have a prev next, this is going to be display flex box. Oops. Yes, you are correct, sir. Good call, Andrew. That just popped up as I said the words. This is going to be his flex box. For this, I mean, I could use grid to prototype it, but Flexbox will be just as good, and that's really probably what I want to do. Heck with it. I'll just do it. List style none here, and that should default to horizontal, which it didn't because I probably typed something wrong, because that's what I do. Oh, there we go. But it didn't default to a row. All right, let's take a look. Ooh, let's see if the Flexbox. Nope, the Flexbox panel still isn't doing anything. Oh, because they're all. I didn't make them be smaller. That's what I did wrong. Well, actually, did I? What are they? Display list item. Yeah, they don't have any actual styling, except for the user agent, display list item, text line, match parent, which is not a thing you can do in your CSS and expect it to work well. Prev next, star. Let's just go with 33% and see what happens. That should work. Nope. I'm just flex 33%. Are they? Oh, because I said I let the flex grow be 1. Can I change you? Let me change you. God bless America. All the ships at sea. Jeez. All right. You won't let me change those. I get it. Okay. Why you no shrink? Oh, Flexbox. Is it your display list item? Inline. Previous, next. But yeah, no, that is applying. All right, I'm going to go flex 0, 0. So no grow, no shrink. Display inline. There we go. I could probably do just, yeah, the list item is probably making them blocks, and so they're blocks, and that was my problem. I could have also set widths to be 33%, although these shouldn't be growing or shrinking, so why are they 33%? See, Flexbox is still a little bit of a mystery to me, I have to admit. Grid makes more sense to me. Flexbox is great in a lot of situations, and I can deal with this. Let's be clear. I can easily deal with this by just setting the justify content to be, justify content space between, so I can do that, and then they'll all spread out, and that's fine. Or they should. Oh, wait a minute. What's the UL doing? No, that's not it. LI, LI, LI. Yeah. Once again, Flexbox is confusing me because these should be spreading out. Oh. Son of a biscuit. Display flex, because I no type good. There we go. That was my problem. I said display flexbox, not display flex. And we all missed it because these things are easy to miss. Okay, so I'm going to have to get rid of the margins and the padding, well, the side margins and padding. 2M0, padding 0. And then that should spread everything out a bit more.
Can you put me on mute again?
Yeah, specificity wars. Remember when I did thoughts UL padding left 4M? I could take that down. Oops. Apparently I have an alarm going off. Woohoo! That actually tells me that I've got about 20 minutes to go here before I should call it day. This is really more entries. And so, well, so yeah, I don't think that'll make a difference because what's happening now is like this is 33%, this is 33%, this is 33%. They're just not like I'm not center aligning them or whatever. I could, but they're flex items, so they're basically generating block boxes as it is. They just weren't before because I had messed up the display flex and said display flex box. Yeah, and there is a little bit of a flex inspector in Firefox here. If you click on this little thingamajig, it'll draw the flex for you and it'll show, I think these are, I'm not sure why those are there, to be honest. It seems like they would be the It seems like that's the white space between the list items, but that shouldn't actually have an effect. I'll have to check into that. And eventually, I think there will be a Flexbox inspector like there's a grid inspector. That's their plan. But it's not there yet. Like if you're running nightly, this little twisty does nothing. Yeah, because this is 30. Oh, you're right, because it's 33%. Yeah, exactly right. So this is the 0.5% and 0.5%. It would be, yeah, because 33 is 99. So this would be 0.5% for 99.5 and 0.5% for 100. Good call, Andrew. Thank you. Okay, so coolness, and I actually almost all of this should get converted to .entry, and maybe not here, but almost all of these thoughts should be converted to .entry because I'm only using entry, or maybe article.entry, because I'm only using articles with classes of entry in here, in these posts. So let me turn that inspector off, and I'm going to. Let me get, where did I put previous next? There they are. I'm going to text align center for now. And that should, I mean, that's okay. You know, if I have one that's super long and one that's super short, this is going to look off balance. But I can live with this for now. I might eventually do like this is centered and smaller, and then this one's right aligned and this one's left aligned, so that it's sort of a centered thingamajig, and this one can point off as long as it wants, and this can point off as long or short as it wants. I think I may eventually do that and maybe put little visible separators between them. But I don't think I'm going to do that at the moment, because like the classes are here. I could easily, like just as an example, I could set these to be 20%. No, I could set these to be, let's see, I could let them shrink. I could set them to be 50%, but then I could say prev next dot main, so the child selector flex 0, 0, I don't know, I'll say 20%, just, or 10%, just as an example. So this shouldn't visibly move. These should pull in, if I got all this right, which I didn't, so go me. Well, okay, yeah, they did actually. I just didn't, it was harder to see. So this is now 20%, 10%, excuse me, and these are each 40%, because they're allowed to shrink. I said basically your basis is 50%, but you can get smaller. And you can't get bigger. I mean, I could say they could get bigger, but they really wouldn't be able to. I could let this one shrink as well. Oops. That would give it almost all the shrink. And then that should pull it down a bit. But anyway, right, then I could left align this one so that the text goes over here, and this one goes over here. Yeah, I could do that too, the 25, 50, 25, or 50, or 40, 10, 40, right? I mean, I can nail these down. I kind of like that this is a little bit more flexible, right? And yeah, it's not that Flexbox doesn't play nicely with text. It's that Flexbox is not what we're used to at all. Flexbox is just, I mean, it's mostly sensible if you have a bunch of things that are very similar sizes, like links in a nav bar, which it looks like I'm probably not going to get to today, but that's okay. So if you have those like links in a nav bar and they're all roughly the same length, and you just want to like arrange them so they stretch out across your nav bar, the links are sort of like evenly distributed, then Flexbox generally makes sense. And in this case, it mostly makes sense. A lot of the problems that I ran into here were of my own making, like where I said display flex box instead of display flex, and then nothing was working. I was just like, well, I need to add a bunch of stuff to make this work. And no, I actually didn't. But, when you have wildly different amounts of text, stuff can get weird. And like if I click forward, right? And this is, like, I'm okay with this at the moment, but again, I probably want to have these all pull in, even though that will visually unbalance it. I think I might like that better. It's something I'll try later. I don't want to do it right now. But let me actually go up to the home page, and then, here's a probably good example. Let me click into this one. Right? Like this kind of works. If I do the thing that we're thinking here, I may as well try it since we're here. Previous is text align right. And next will be a text align left. Oops, nexty. And then, honestly, I should stop doing this. Well, no, I'll leave it generically just in case. Then that's, and I could put little borders around them so that it's like sort of boxy. I'm not going to. I could. I could put. Borders in here. I could visually center. I could vertically center them all. I mean, that's a thing. Align items. I don't think this will look right, but I can do it. Right? That doesn't really work for me unless I'm going to put in those borders. But this is an option, and I could stop. I can't remember if this is generated content or not. I think it is. Nope. I literally typed it into the template, but I could stop doing that, right? I could have like little arrows that are centered if I wanted to do that. I'll probably start generating the content. I'll probably start content generating the arrows instead of having them be literally in the source. Because by having them in the source, I was going to say by having them in the source, then they're going to get indexed and read, but that's going to happen if I generate them anyway. I don't know, whatever. I think I'm going to stick with this. Everything's baseline aligned, in effect, even though it's really start aligned. No, truncation is not a strat. ... Let me come back here. Yeah, because I want to deal with the comments. The comments are not looking the way I want them to. And I think I'm going to use a variant on this separator between comments. See if I can sneak this in before we get to noon. So we've got, we have div class equals text here. That's interesting. And these are H5s. That's not going to last. There are paragraphs. Then there's the meta happening there. But it doesn't get the same styling as this because I constrain that to metas inside entries. This is not an entry, it's in a comment. This whole section is comments. It has the RSS and trackback information. I'll deal with that at some point. This will probably be all in one line by the time I'm done with it in some fashion. Maybe not. Anyway. I could put these in a little box over here, just have it hanging out, because I'm not going to, I should get rid of this, this thing. Take that up. I'm not going to do the boxy stuff. Anyway, 20 responses, and then we've got all this. And here's the interesting question. So I'm doing this kind of paragraph styling in the entries, but do I want to do that in the comments? Or do I want to go back to having them be their usual thing? In which case, that's another case of I want this to happen, and I want that to happen, and that to happen, and that to happen, and that to happen, and that to happen. And then if I change that, then paragraphs and comments become quote unquote normal, web normal. I wonder if I should do that. I don't see that that's necessarily a problem. It sets the types of content apart from each other. I'm just not sure if it sets them apart from each other in a good way. I'm going to copy this. And this is an ordered list inside the comments. Comments OLLI. And I'm going to do that. How many comments do paragraphs typically have? They typically don't have many, but sometimes they have more. I'm going to make this 50% size. All right, so that'll separate comments. Which I'm good with that. Not this part, but with this being the separator. I think this information is going to end up going up here. Yeah, I really think that's going to happen. Thinking. Because this is the H3 if it's this. And those guys are H5s. Yeah, it's definitely the date byline's got to get fixed. But I'm not finding, oh, there it is. Right, and then /H5, and then the comment text. Huh. Am I in the wrong place? I wonder if I'm in the wrong place. I'm about to find out. No, I'm definitely in the right place. All right, so let's stop that. Where the heck is it generating that stuff? Is that part of, I wonder if that's part of comment text. I bet it is. No? Wait, why did this all come back? It's not supposed to be doing that. Oh, I've messed up. Curses. All right, that's not going to get fixed before I'm done for the day. All right, well, I blew that. I don't know how that happened. I must have accidentally done some undos. I can at least make that stuff go away. Yeah, this will need to, I mean, I'll need a little more here. Comments, OLLI, blah, blah, blah. Right, but I had taken that stuff out. WordPress does put in its own stuff, but I had taken it out. I had made this not be what it is anymore. Okay, so anyway, ignore this part right here. Just look at this part. Yeah, I think that's probably about right. And then I just need to, like, all this stuff, like, I don't want this here. I don't actually even want this here. Did I remove the filter? Is that what I did? That's probably what I did. But this was, I remember it ended in G:IA. I'm not going to remember this quite right. I always want it to be uppercase D because why wouldn't it be? Month, year. Day. Something at the end. That's going to be completely wrong, but I'm sort of curious to see what comes out. Oh, no. Yeah, I probably did, but I can't undo my way back to it somehow. All right, well, yeah, I sure broke that. So I must have done a bunch of undos and I forgot to do all the redos, and now it's all right. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix that later. I will look at filters. See, I thought I was directly editing comment stuff before, and I don't. Yeah, this is like shoot. All right, well, I'll get it fixed between today and tomorrow, one way or another, even if I have to, right, because this is a filter of balance tag comment text, but I think I'm good. All right. Well, I think that's gonna call this for today. I'll figure out how to fix this to bring it back. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is that linked date is going to end up as part of this first line. It's going to say, you know, it's going to be like something like on something, you know, whatever, on Thursday, October 22nd, 2015 at whatever PM, Michael Hatch wrote in to say, right? And then down here it will say, this will just say, you know, received from such and so on blah 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 at time. That sort of thing is how that's I think is gonna work. This will pull it all together, let the comments be, you know, boom boom boom, and that'll be good. So once I'm gonna do that after the stream today, so that'll hopefully be done like before the day's over, and then I can get back to doing some of this other stuff. Anyway, this was once again, I enjoyed this. I hope you did too. Thanks for joining in to all who did. And I think my plan for tomorrow is in the afternoon, but if I'm wrong about whatever I said on the blog post is what I'm probably doing. So if you want to come back, cool beans. And if not, then like I say, thanks for joining in today, and I'll see you all later.